Hey everyone, it's Ari. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am going to be talking about 10 books that I constantly think about. These aren't all 5-star books. A lot of them are like 4.5, or I've thought about after reading it for a really long time. So I'm going to talk about 10 of those. We have a lot of fantasy. There's also some romance, mystery, thriller. We're going to talk about the top 10 first, and then at the end I'll let you know some of my other favorites that just didn't make the top 10 list of books I think about all the time, but are still some of my favorite books. I started this series back in around 2021 when I started reading again. I think about the series constantly. I want to pick it up again next year and reread it. I just love it so much. It's very nostalgic to me now, and that is Shatter Me. This is the limited edition version of it, and it says, "I spent my life folded between pages of books," and it's just beautiful. Shatter Me is about Juliet, and Juliet has powers. Or a power. The power that she has is kind of a threat to her society. She had something happen in her past, and their government, which is called the Reestablishment, doesn't like Juliet. And they want to take all of these people who have special powers and gifts and basically take them out of society and use them as, like, test lab rats. I don't want to give too much away, but there is a love story in this series, and I just love it, honestly. It's a YA series, so there isn't a ton of like smut or anything like that, but it's one of those books that you read and you want to just pick up the next one right away. So this is definitely a 5-star series for me. I just love this entire series. Next is a thriller mystery kind of book, and this one I know everyone's gonna recognize, Housemaid by Frida McFadden. This book was so good when I picked it up. I picked it up I think 2 years ago, but I have read all 3 of the books in the Housemaid series, and I know she's coming out with a novella as well. It's about this woman named Millie. Millie was in prison for a really long time for something that happened a while back, and she goes to work for this family called the Winchesters because she couldn't really find much work anywhere else that would hire her since she's a felon. Let's just say this gets insane. Just know that Millie sees some things, okay? And this is one of my favorite Frida McFadden books. Frida does have 3 books in this series. I read the first 2 and I loved them, and then I got to the 3rd one that just came out and I wasn't the biggest fan. So if you're going to pick the series up, just know book 1 and 2 are really good. Book 3 you may or may not like. I personally was not the biggest fan, but it was still a good book. Book number 3. This book to me is everything. I need to reread it sometime next year. This book is so freaking cute, and I love it, and I think about it constantly. It's about Macy and Elliot, and they're basically childhood best friends, and it's a childhood best friends to lovers. I don't want to give too much away. Again, these books are really hard to explain without telling you everything that happens in them, but just know that this is one of my all-time favorite books. This is probably my top 3 favorite books. This is by Christina Lauren. So if you want to pick up a really good, just feel-good story, I definitely would recommend Love in Other Words. We're going to talk about a dark romance. It's Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Reaver, and this book was so funny. That sounds terrible because it's about 2 serial killers, but they are killing bad people. So if that makes it any better, a one-time-a-year thing that they do. It's like a little competition between the 2 of them. This book was just really funny, and it was really fun to read. Also, let's just say I wasn't the biggest fan of Cookies and Cream Ice Cream for a little while. Book number 4. Right, number 5 on my list is The Serpents and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I love this book, and I just read it last month. It's basically a competition about this world of like vampires and humans. I know that this always sounds like Twilight when you explain a vampire story or a vampire like world, but I promise it has nothing to do with anything like Twilight. It's about like a life or death competition, and it has trials in it. There's also like a really, really good love story in this book. I just actually picked up the 2nd book today at Barnes, so if that tells you anything, I read this book and it's massive to me. Like, she's thick. I highly recommend this book. Next book is Out on a Limb by Hannah Bodum Young. This is a newer book I read as well this year, and it is so good. And the guy in it is not insufferable whatsoever. He is probably one of my favorite book boyfriends. His name is Bo, and this is about Win and Bo. Her name's Winifred, but they call her Win. There's an accidental pregnancy trope, so if you don't like that, I apologize for recommending this one, but I promise you, it's worth the pickup. Like, it's not cringy at all, and he is a amazing boyfriend to her. Her best friend's named Sarah, and she's also such a good character in this book. She just made it so funny. It's about like a friend group, and it's just very found family, and I just really loved this book. I also do really want to pick up more books by Hannah Bodum Young, so if you know of any books that she has written that were really good, please let me know, because I have no idea what to pick up by her next, but I just really love this one. The next book is no surprise to literally anyone who knows me, or probably anyone within the booktube community, A Core of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. I loved this book. I literally sat and read this book on my way back from a vacation. It is thick. This book is huge, and I ate it up like it was a 300-page book. It was so good. I can't exactly say anything about this book whatsoever because it's the third book in a series, so I don't want to give it away if you haven't read it. But just know, if you want a good fantasy series, I know that you've heard about it a million times and you may think it's overhyped, but I promise that the ACOTAR series is just so good. This next one was such a surprise to me because it was my introduction to dark romance after I read Credence. So if you know what Credence is, Scarred by Emily McIntyre. She actually just came out with her new book. I will put it on the screen next to me, but she just came out with her new book, I think a couple days ago. If you want a good dark romance series, it's called the Never After series, and I love them. I would probably say that Scarred is my top one out of the series. I haven't finished it. I think I have the newest one and then the one before that. The girl main character is named Sarah, and then the prince is named Tristan. They're fighting for the crown. So I'm again not going to give too much detail about every book that I'm talking about, but if you want a good one that's a dark romance beginner, I would definitely say Scarred is good. If you can't tell, I sat and read this book and tabbed so much. So the second to last book I have, no surprise here, Emily Henry is one of the queens of the romance genre on Booktok, and The Happy Place was my favorite one out of like her published ones that everyone talks about, like The Colored Spines, like Happy Place, People We Meet on Vacation. I just really liked Happy Place, and I think it's because I am 25, so it's kind of like younger adults, like my age group. They're basically a whole friend group, and it's very found family, and it's just a feel-good summer book with a little bit of drama, and I just loved it. It was really good. So this is another one that I think about a lot. The last one on the list, number 10, that I'm going to talk about, I literally just finished, and I'm obsessed with this book. It was so good, and it's perfect for spooky season, or for just, like, October, November, December in general, and that is Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. I read it on my Kindle, and it's just because it's, like, one of those thicker books, and honestly, reading on my Kindle sometimes just makes it feel like a smaller book. It's about a trial, and it takes place in, like, this haunted mansion kind of thing. The main character of this one, her name is Ophelia, and her mother was a necromancer. If you don't know what that is, it's basically when you can talk and see ghosts and like things like that. It explains it in the book. Her mother passes away in the beginning of the book, which I don't feel like gives anything away, but her powers as a witch, necromancer kind of thing, gets passed to Ophelia, and Ophelia is looking for her sister after something happens in the beginning of the book that I'm not going to say, but she goes through these 9 trials of Phantasma to try and get her sister back. There is romance in this, and it's such a good romance. Oh my god, I love him. I just love him. Phantasma is definitely in my top 10, which is crazy because I just finished it like last week. So pick this one up. It's not overhyped like Booktok says it is. So good. This is the part of the video where I do want to just add some of the honorable mentions. I have 3 that I can think of off the top of my head. If you need some more books to pick up, here's some more recommendations for me. The first one is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and this is a YA series. I have read the first 3 books, and then I have The Brothers Hawthorne, which is book 4 on my TBR right now. One just came out pretty recently, so I haven't gotten to it yet, but when I tell you, I sped through the first 3 books in this series within a month, I'm not kidding. It's basically about this girl named Avery, and she inherits a just insane amount of money from some random stranger that she has no idea who they are. She has no idea why this guy comes to her school one day and just says, "You inherited a ton of money, let's go." This was so good to me, and I just cannot wait to pick up the next one. The next 2 are so Booktok famous. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros is one of my favorite fantasy reads. I haven't read Iron Flame yet. It's on my TBR right now, and I cannot wait to get to it, but Fourth Wing was like groundbreaking in the book community. It's so good. I personally don't think it's overhyped, but a lot of people may think it is. Let me just read the little line that this book is famous for. It says, "A dragon without its rider is a tragedy, and a rider without its dragon is dead." That's all I gotta say. I'm a little sad about this one right now because book 2 after the novella Powerful was not my favorite. Book 2 I'm talking about is Reckless, and if you've read Powerless, Reckless, Powerful, you know what I'm talking about. Lauren Roberts, the author of the series, did tell us that book 2 was going to be a little slower in setting up for book 3. So I'm holding out hope, and I feel like it's going to be really good. But as of right now, book 1 is still my favorite. And then the novella, also an honorable mention, we'll just let you know there. That was so good. Powerful by Lauren Roberts, 10 out of 10. But Powerless, This book I read around the time that I read Fourth Wing. I was just stuck in this like fantasy reading time. I recommend that you pick up Fourth Wing, The Inheritance Games, or Powerless, or all three. That is the end of today's video. I hope that it helped you guys with any recommendations for a bunch of different genres that you were looking for. A lot of time I do take recommendations from a bunch of booktubers like Sarah, Des, Haley, or TikTok. So a lot of these are more popular books, but I'm telling you they're popular for a reason. So if you are looking for any of those books to read, I would just pick up one of these. Thank you for coming to today's video, and I hope you guys have a good day.